Hello, everyone. Welcome to Make Yourself at Home. Bassett Furniture taking the showroom to consumers. I'm Tracy. I'm the marketing manager here at Amplify, and we're joined today by Brian Claspel, who is the Chief Information Officer at Bassett Furniture. We're also joined by Rhonda Scott, who is the Director of Enterprise Application, encompassing all of their wholesale and retail software applications. And last, but definitely not least, Eric Gilbo, who is the practice director here at Amplify, focused on the InterWorks platform. So part of this webinar today, we're going to be discussing Make Yourself at Home, how Amplify and Bassett came together to bring that showroom customer experience to a more scalable and flexible environment within the InterWorks PIM system. So I'll start off by handing it over to Brian so he can tell us a little bit more about Bassett Furniture and their vision that they've been trying to accomplish when it comes to their data.
All right, well, thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the time today. And just thought I'd start by, shortly after I started with Bassett Furniture, I was visiting with my grandmother who's 95 years old. And in her living room is a Bassett sofa. Now, I had no idea until I went to visit her that she had that, but she bought that sofa in the 1970s, which is kind of interesting that she's had it for so long. It still sits comfortably, still looks very nice, other than it's not the fabric that probably any of us would choose at this time, but it's a nice piece of furniture. Bassett has been making high-quality furniture for 120 years. And continues to do so. Our furniture is primarily made in the United States and is custom made to meet the needs of our customers. So a little bit different and unique way of going about marketing furniture. We aren't a mass marketer of furniture in the sense that a lot of companies are, where we build it and sell it on the showroom floor. We do some of that, but primarily it's custom. So you get to go in and design your furniture. We leverage some highly skilled design consultants in our retail locations, in our Bassett retail locations. We have other fine retailers, wholesale partners who sell our furniture, and to some degree we sell our furniture online, and as well as with some accessories. So it's an interesting model and a great model to have. As consumers have shifted how they interact with businesses, we've continued to shift how we meet the customer needs. So we can meet them when, where, and how they want to be interacted with. This requires a solid foundation of people, process, and technologies. So in order to do that, we've looked at what are some changes we need to make as a company. And one of those is the opportunity to better manage our product data. So especially because we have a very complicated product mix since it's all made to order. So that means not only are you dealing with the finished product, but you're also dealing with the components and how do the components come together to actually make that piece of furniture that you're going to comfortably be sitting at in your front room. We selected InterWorks as our PIM solution to do this, and which was because they bring a lot to the table, and I'll let Rhonda and Eric talk a little bit about what they bring to the table specifically. But what I will say is just as important as selecting the solution is selecting your integration partner that's going to help you deliver that. We looked for a partner that was a cultural fit for us. We looked for a partner that knew how to deliver, and we think we found that with Amplify. We're very thrilled and excited that they partnered with us to help deliver this, which is going to deliver more value for our customers. So with that, excited to have Rhonda and Eric, who are going to go into a little more detail, and thrilled for the partnership that we've started and what we've delivered and what we will continue to deliver. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conversation today.
Thank you for that, Brian. Brian is unfortunately not able to join us for the rest of this presentation, but it's okay. We're in great hands with Eric and Rhonda. So thank you, Brian, and glad to be in partnership with you as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, so Rhonda, do you mind giving us a little bit of forethought about what the process was behind the build and that makes Bassett's furniture customizations a scalable internal process?
So in our current world, Bassett's product is highly customized. Brian talked about that a little bit, in that, our bread and butter is made to order furniture, where the customer can walk into our store and choose to build the furniture in almost any way they want. And as we're trying to build and make more scalable that process, we have been selling that custom product online for some time. But in order to do that, we have to do quite a bit of work to refine how we present all of those choices online to a customer, so that there's not decision fatigue. It's so easy to lose the customer in that process if there are too many decisions to make, and they get down the rabbit hole and just say, this is too hard. So we do a lot of work to streamline the way we present it to a customer and try to help the customer navigate on the website. And in order to do that, we have built a custom website with a lot of supplemental and supporting product databases to help refine that. So though we're able to offer a lot to our customer, and we're very proud of what we have done over the past years, it's really not a scalable environment. We have a tremendous amount of human capital supporting our process. And in other words, a lot of manual work that is happening to support separate databases. So really our thought process around this project is for us to be more scalable and for us to grow to a stronger platform and an ability to grow our online business and extend that customer experience from web to store in a much more consistent way. We needed to have a platform to build on. So we immediately said we can't enrich our data in 10 different database tables and try to, connect the dots and to have so many human parts that all of this is reliant on, rather than a system that can support that and be scalable and enable us to automate. So we selected Interworks as the platform to build that on, and are very excited with what we've been able to do so far and what we have planned for the rest of the year.
So Eric, how did we solve some of their problems?
Well, one of the things that we needed to be able to do is kind of change the behavior patterns and bring everything together in one place. So to Rhonda's point, there were multiple databases and tables and places where people would keep information, everything from down to a sticky note on the side of somebody's computer to a spreadsheet to, an access database, it might be another database element that was there. And those are all great, but what ends up happening is you start to silo your workers, right? And so one person knows that they go to this location and they grab their data and put it in there. And then someone else might be loading the data somewhere else, and the data may not completely match. It's kind of like a game of telephone, right? Where eventually the message can change, and it happens over time. So what we did was we said, okay, we're going to take all those different sources. We're going to put it into one place inside one system, and then everyone can manage from that one system. And with that, there's a lot of change management that comes with it too, right? Because everyone's used to doing work in their individual system. And now we're like, okay, we're no longer going to need to do the work there. You're going to do the work here. And that's going to reduce the need for you to do the work here, there, and there, right across the board, because we can feed the data to those sources. And that's sort of our first approach, was like, let's just get it to a point where you can do the work in one place instead of having to do the work in 3 places or 4 places. And then once we do that, then we can start eliminating the need for all those other services, because to Rhonda's point, right, everything you have, Rhonda, is built on those 4 or 5 different services. It wasn't like we could just shut them off and magically go, okay, we're great, we're good, we're able to move on. You have to figure out an exit strategy for the existing services and things that were working. So those were a couple of things we kind of used sort of to bring that together from a technical standpoint, to be able to bring the data into one location. Rhonda, I don't know, should we talk a little bit about the outbound side of things and taking the data and being able to feed it back out to those systems too?
Sure. So we are building a new website platform for just one use case to talk about. And in that build, we have to support our current website and also build for the future simultaneously. So for about 6 months, we have got to support our current world while building the new world. So the ability to have tools that allow us to be able to send out our data the way we need it today to our current website, as well as we're looking at sending data out to our point of sale systems that support our stores from one central database, and the ability to have the tools that allow us to, template those exports and to be able to filter the data needed for each different system is just wonderful, because so much of that has been such a manual effort for our team up to now.
And when you think about customization, in the way that works, like a single sectional concept, right? I could say, okay, I want a sectional. Well, do I want it in a U shape? Do I want it in an L shape? Do I want, 8 pieces? Do I want 4 pieces? Do I need a sleeper? Do I need a recliner on the side? Do I want it right arm facing? Do I want a left arm facing? Do I want a roll arm? Do I want a track arm? There's all these different components that you don't necessarily think about when you're shopping initially, but when you see it and you can visualize it, it makes a big difference, right? And you need to be able to show those options to customers. So let's talk a little bit about maybe how we're going to get to that point and how you've done it at this point before, and then how the PIM solution helped to kind of direct that a little bit.
Okay, so again, we've been a pretty scrappy developer team on our side to be able to support what we do support. Again, we have a website that is 100% custom built. We've had a wonderful partner who has been fantastic in supporting us on that custom build of the website. But it means every time we introduce something new or we want to do something new, it's a project that we have to do to build out how are we going to support this page. So as Eric said, just an example of a sofa or a sectional. So anytime we have an upholstery collection, it usually has sofas, love seats, chairs, sectionals. And we have common configurations that are most popular in the way we sell our sectionals. Well, we have to help the customer navigate that. So we put all those popular configurations together, and we call them kits, which means we've bundled together the pieces to make the most popular configurations. So we're using PIM to help us to have one central database, one central hub where we can build all of those different pieces of the puzzle that we need to make that website navigate successfully, so that we can get the customer there, help them to see all of the choices they might make. And for Bassett behind the scenes, it may mean we're talking about 30 SKUs, but we don't want the customer to feel the pain of navigating 30 SKUs. So we have to present that in a very attractive and easy to navigate way, that we can make it friendly and say, oh, you may love this and you may love this. And we need to present it very successfully. And today we're doing that in about 20 different tables and, connecting all the imagery manually to support that. So what we're doing in PIM is we're able to, make those image associations to each SKU, each kit. We're able to build data relationships across from SKU to SKU, help to navigate, what options are web enabled, what options are not web enabled. So it is just really given us one central place to do things that we were doing in 20 different places before.
And I think the other piece of that is if you decide, traditionally now, if you wanted to build a new kit concept, there's a lot of work that has to go into that, where you have to build it in several systems and you have to prepare everything and then send it to Storus and all the downstream systems that are going to use it. Then we have to render the design of the sectional so everyone can see it. I think one of the advantages you get within the PIM tool is the fact that now, since we have that kit concept, you can build virtual SKUs without having to go through all the effort of building that SKU in the ERP, passing that through, sending through all these subtables. And so the long-term goal is that a merchant could go in and say, well, you know what, I think this is what I think. I'm looking at the sectional that I'm building, and these are the 5 versions of the sectional that I think should be kind of the default versions that we offer up as like the popular configurations. And that's great. You know, it's a good starting point. They could build those kits quickly, and we don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get there. But then what you can start doing is, because you're tying this through Salesforce and you're tying it also through your ERP system, you can look at sales patterns and see that maybe somebody was putting together an 8-piece U-shaped sectional, right? And it comes through several times on an order. So now you can go back to those merchants and report on that and say, hey, we're starting to get a lot of custom orders for this configuration of this couch, you know, and they could build a kit so that becomes a default option, right? So,
yeah, that's so smart.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay.
So how did like Interworks help as far as building these capabilities? Like, did all this thought process come into play whenever you're choosing your platform?
It did. We had a lot of scenarios that we threw at the teams as we were choosing platforms. We brought a selection of product scenarios to that RFP process that we said, okay, here's a sampling of our data. Let's talk about how we might handle this. And we looked at each platform and, you know, the opportunities of how the different tool sets that would come with the platform might assist us in building that for the future. So, you know, that was a part of our decision process. But one thing I wanted to add on the whole kit process, today in our world, we do have to go to our ERP system and set up every kit combination that we may need for anything. And then we're, because they're not truly orderable kits, as Eric has named them virtual kits, we had a lovely internal name of dummy kits before Eric helped us with maybe a better name. But we have orderable kits, and then we have kits that are not orderable. It's just a way to combine all the pieces to present to a customer in a friendlier way, but they're not orderable that way. So the ability to take Interworks and to, instead of having it in the ERP team's hands to have to try to build that, we can take that back and put it in the merchant's hands and put it in the web team's hands, that we can have those conversations based on how we want to sell it and how we want to present it. And we can build those combinations and those relationships without having to get the back end ERP team and manufacturing team involved, because they don't need those. It's really for presentation of how we want to present to our customers. So it really needs to be a different resource team, and Interworks is enabling us to put that in the hands of a different team, to use different resources to build that, rather than, you know, today this team would get together and say, this is what we want, and then we have to pass it through 2 or 3 hands to get it set up and get it passed back and pushed back so it's where they need it. And so we're taking, you know, 2 or 3 steps out of that process at being able to pull it back and put it in the hands of the people who should be making the decisions to begin with.
And that's not to say you can't have predefined kits too, where there are actual sellable items, because we have the example of bed pieces, right? Where the individual components, technically, I guess you could order them if you wanted to. You've got rails, you've got a headboard, you've got a footboard, you've got those elements. There's a kit that actually gets built that represents all of those elements. So there's kind of this crossover where you do have the idea of a virtual, because for a person is literally stringing together a whole bunch of different elements, and they can configure whatever they want, you know, as long as it makes sense for a sectional. Obviously, you can't put certain pieces together, and there's constraint rules that were built into the system for that. But like for more of like a bedroom set, the design is pretty straightforward, right? You have rails, you have a headboard, you have a footboard. So those are a little more structured, and you don't need to have necessarily a virtual kit for that, because the design is going to be the same. The difference would just be in the size of the bed, and maybe the option for an upholstered headboard or a panel headboard, or, you know, whatever option you want. So that it kind of gives them the flexibility to be able to still manage kits in the ERP system, if it truly is a kit that's going to be ordered, that I'm going to order this part number and it's going to be an explosion of a bomb that has the 4 pieces that I need, great, we can do that. Or you can say, well, I can really order anything as long as it fits within these categories. So here's my virtual kit that contains the 8 pieces to make my U-shaped sectional. And there we go. And we can place the order that way. We don't have to have a kit for the actual 8 piece, because that's something somebody just dreamed up, right? It's not something that would be a regularly sellable element.
Right. And part of it is mirroring our photography. So we have a wonderful team that works to make our photography beautiful in the way they present our product. And so we can build kits that if the customer looks at that photography and says, I love it, I want it just like that, then we can have those kits built to say, sure, you can have it just like that. Here it is. So we try to make sure that we always build kits to support our photography so that they can drop it in the cart, or if they've seen it and they walk into the store and say, I want it just like that, we make sure that we have those kits ready and available to make that ordering as easy as possible for the customer.
Yeah, I was going to ask exactly that. Like, how does the virtual kit concept like translate to like your showroom customer experience? And it sounds like via the photography, creating kits based on that helps you go, I want that. And
exactly.
Get it.
So, and when we take it to our Bassett stores, it's very similar. We have pads or vignettes within each store for the way we show the different collections. And it's the same. The way we floor it in our stores, we want to make sure that we have the kits and the supporting SKU scenarios so that it's easy to order. We try to make it as easy to order as possible, so that salesperson in the store isn't saying, well, oh, it's wonderful you want this. It's, I'm hang tight, I've got to find 6, 10, 8, however many SKUs that make this combination to pull this together. Hold please, I'm going to write up this order. We really want to have that kit that enables them to immediately get all the SKUs on that order form, and then just help the customer through selections past that. So if they're selecting fabrics or finishes, or, I'm upgrading my cushion, do I want nail head, yes or no, those kind of things. They can help navigate those decisions without having to, dig through 100 SKUs to get there.
And if you think about the challenges there with, flooring, it's especially, and even display on the web, right? If you show an environment image that has all of those elements in it, over time, there might be a scenario where maybe the lamps are discontinued, or that coffee table is no longer valid, and you have a need to update the flooring, right? The floor itself, because you're going to change the way it's laid out, because you want to have sellable products available on your showroom floor. You also want to have sellable products available on the web that you can see, right? That everybody knows that, oh, these 6 things are available together. Great. Well, the challenge is, if anything changes, how do you track that, and how do you make updates, right? And traditionally, Rhonda, it's basically somebody eyeballs it, right, and says, oh, we don't have an image of this.
We have spreadsheets. Yeah, we have spreadsheets. Again, we have very disconnected systems, so that the entire team is not operating out of the same database and the same systems, or have privy to the same spreadsheet. So that's the challenge, is, as Eric said, if something is discontinued or something changes. So if a fabric drops, and we have to determine how much photography does this impact? How many store floor samples does this impact? What does this change mean to us, and how do we execute that change? And so that's one of the things that we're working with the Amplify team right now on, is building workflows to help, immediately be able to query and see the impact of change. What's the scope of the change we need to do, and then to be able to help build a workflow to help the team work through that change. So we're very, very excited about that part.
So the thought process around that is, you have a room scene that you build, right? And that's to be built for a small showroom, a medium showroom, a large showroom, a web scene, right? Where it's photography that we've included. So you have all the scalability to say, okay, I have a new type of scene that I need to do. Maybe I've got a catalog spread that I want to do. my image for that. So because we can manage that through the concept of code sets and through, a list of values, it becomes scalable. So if a new thing comes up, instead of having to reinvent the wheel, we add a new option to the code set list and then create our rules around that new code set value. And we can manage the same process, the same listing of products, the same groupings as a room scene through that same repository of data, and then just send the data where we want to send it. So that's kind of one of the long-term advantages.
Yeah. And when you said that, I also thought of the fact that, we do sell through multiple channels, and not all product is sold through all channels. So the ability to be able to identify our product by channel and to be able to, syndicate that information out. Today, that's very hard for us. We are managing a lot of different ways that we share that product, out in fairly manual price books and catalogs and information and tools that are a lot of work to maintain. And with the PIM, we envision being able to, mark every product with what channels does it sell in, and being able to navigate a little bit more robust pricing capability so that we can syndicate our catalog to the right audience. So whether we're taking it to the web, or whether we're taking it to a Bassett store, or whether we're taking it to what we call open market, which is a traditional dealer who may have, another name on the front of their store that we do not own, we have a significant amount of our business that is sold through traditional dealers, and they have a different product lines that are sold in those stores that are not the same product lines that are sold in our Bassett store. So the ability to differentiate that product, to carry the different lines and the different channels that we sell, and be able to get that information to the right audiences, and have multiple versions of the catalog and the ability to filter those. We're very excited about those tools as well.
I think the other piece that goes along with syndication into different channels is the ability to kind of separate out the relationships between products and how that works, right? Because we've been in discussions about this right now, right? About, well, if I put it on Salesforce and I want to group the Vienna bed and this bed together as one style, how do I do that? How can I manage that? When that's not traditionally how the ERP system would do it. They would be individual SKUs and they wouldn't be grouped together naturally, other than
That's right.
share an attribute in the system. So let's kind of talk a little bit about that, I guess. What's the future plan there?
We've had some pretty complex collections. So what Eric was describing was our custom upholstered bed collection. And in that bed collection, we had grown to about 8 different styles. So to Bassett, it was our upholstered bed collection. And we had all of these different styles and all of these different choices. And honestly, to a customer, it's not the same bed. I mean, we are really talking about choices that can make it completely different beds. And we were trying to navigate all of this, on our website with a lot of manual work going on and a lot of custom code. And we kind of joke that every time we come out with a new collection, we have a whole new project of programming to do to support how are we going to navigate and make the relationships to connect all the dots between all of these SKUs and to give the customer choices without losing them in that sales process. And so what we're doing is we're really streamlining how we present those. We're deciding about styling, and we're giving the web team the ability to make decisions on, what's my master, what do I want to show on the PLP, the product listing page, to help a customer navigate in, and how do we navigate and make the relationships of associated products, other items in this collection. If you like this, you might really like this, so that they can navigate those styles differently, but to handle that through managing these data relationships rather than hard coding in tables and in the website the ability to connect those dots. So, what Eric was describing, we have a Vienna and a Barcelona and Dublin beds, and those are different styles within the same overall kind of master collection. And the ability to navigate those and make a relationship in this database that we do not have in other databases is very exciting. Very exciting.
And you can create different relationships for different sources too, right? So just like we were talking about the idea of your open market and web and maybe a catalog, you can do the same thing with this, where you could say, okay, I'm going to create a hierarchy that maps these products at this level just specifically for open market, and this is the way I want to present it to open market. And I can create parent, children, grandchildren, as many levels as we need to, based upon where we're going to send that data, which gives you a little more flexibility. And it's all managed to the same location, right? You're basically fetching SKUs and mapping those SKUs to the different hierarchies that you want to tie them to.
Right. That's right. And you mentioned hierarchies, the ability to manage multiple hierarchies for multiple purposes. So being able to drag and drop to manage that web hierarchy, while also being able to build a hierarchy maybe for reporting, or a different hierarchy. We have, an outdoor division that needs a completely different hierarchy than maybe our indoor. So just the flexibility of having tools like that are easy to build and to drag and drop and to have visibility of, so that we can filter for different needs and different channels. So that's very exciting too.
So it sounds like this is all going to be fueling a big future of digital transformation for Bassett Furniture, right?
That's absolutely right. We, as Brian said, we're a 120-year-old company, and we have been selling custom furniture for a very long time. And we are on some software platforms that are very dated.
Yeah.
So it's when you're extremely complex, it makes that move to new software harder, and it makes your speed to market and your project timelines much longer when you have to custom build every bridge for each software to talk, for one software to talk to another software. So for us, the ability to be able to get our product data in a platform that allows us to curate and navigate that product in a way that we can talk to other systems easier is the first step we felt like we had to make in this digital transformation. So it's funny you use that terminology, and I'm sure it's common across, especially our industry. I think we have a lot of companies that were in the same position we were, that had a lot of traditional software that they're trying to bring forward. And so as we try to update that software, we immediately determined that our first step had to be a strong product database, so that we can feed all future systems, in a more efficient way going forward.
This will fuel the full product life cycle too, right?
Yes. As a part of the whole product life cycle in our workflow processes, we are going from the concept phase of, an idea that the design team has and the product development team has, through the sample process, through, okay, this is approved, we're going to add it to our line. And then we have a whole, staging process where we develop that product, enrich that product, and get it ready for launch. Then, of course, we'll have the active life of that product. And then once that product, maybe we need to freshen it up, or the sales are starting to drop, we can stage that end of life cycle as well. And today, it's really hard to communicate and to navigate the end of life cycle for product. Understanding, who are we selling it to? What are we replacing it with? Because if it is, a part of our line, we have to make sure that we are solving, the gap that we're leaving from a styling perspective or on the store floor. If you drop something, you now have a gap on your floor that has to be refilled and replaced. So being able to navigate all of the changes that happen through product life cycle, even discontinuing product is a scope of work that the team has to work through. So we're very excited about that, and definitely have that as part of our workflows to make sure that we are communicating that better. We are, able to step through and understand the impact and the scope of work of all of that. So that's another piece of the puzzle that is really, really needed in order for us to be able to have a much stronger platform going forward.
And you kind of bring up an interesting point with that too, Rhonda. If you think about changes that happen, we talked about that whole idea of room scene changing, and you now have to communicate that to your stores. So not only do you have the digital experience, right, for the web, which is easy to make updates to, right? If you discontinue a product, if you want to change it out, it's much easier to just make the update on the web and say, okay, great, it's no longer available on web, or it is available on web. And you can kind of control that through flags. Where it gets more difficult is I'm going to discontinue this product, and I now need to tell all of my retail locations, hey, we need to pull this off of your floor or move it to a clearanced area or whatever the case may be, because it's going away, and pull it from your ordering process. Oh, and it went out to open market too, right? So now all of our open market channels need to know that there's a change coming, right? And that's a little more difficult to manage. Whereas if you can manage that, instead of doing it from sticky notes and spreadsheets and those sorts of things and internal communications that happen, if there's one source where we're saying, okay, just like we brought the product into the world, we brought it in a product concept where we said, merchant team had an idea and they said, this is a great idea. Let's go build it, built a sample, said, it looks good. Let's put it out for sale. And they built it. When it's time to turn, the faucet off and end the life of that product, it's much easier to have a process where you can see it inside the tool and like trigger that change, right? So if we're going to end the life on the product, now we can email the merchant team, we can email the web team, we can email the teams in charge of flooring, right? To say, hey, this is coming, this is going to be, it's reaching the end of life. We need to make a decision as to what we're going to replace it with.
Right. And we do all of that today, but the way we do it is, we have meetings, merch meetings that we have with a cross-sectional group of our company, and it is run off of a kind of a spreadsheet that we're tracking across the board. And when we announce something is going to be discontinued, the number one is we have to have a plan together before we announce it outside the company, right? So we have to have our team go through and develop that plan, and we have to understand the scope of change. And, does it affect our floor samples? Does it affect inventory? What's our sell down period on the inventory? So a phase out cycle for one piece may be, okay, we're ready to phase this out. We can phase this out in 30, 60 days. But another piece, we may have so much inventory that our phase out process is longer. So having the right data at their fingertips to understand, okay, we want to phase this out. Let's see, how many stores are we impacting? What kind of inventory levels do we have, so that we can marry back to our other systems, whether it be point of sale systems or ERP systems, and to be able to give our teams a better picture of how to scope that plan. We're very excited about that. As well as being able to target the last order date and be able to communicate that out. Again, right now we do manual communications out to our, open market dealers and our reps to say, okay, this is the last order date for this product. We're discontinuing it. We're replacing it with this, but this is last order date on the product that is going away. So there's the whole overlap of support there during that period, and being able to have that in a database that makes that process flow more efficiently, and we can communicate more efficiently is what we're looking for in the future.
Yeah. And there's no magic button that's going to do it for you, right? There's still going to be that interaction with people and teams and grouping, but what it does is it provides you more of a dashboard of where things are at. And hey, an action now that I have to take that now I can allow other teams to see that action that I need to take, right? So I need to fix this or change this and approve it. And then the next group can do what they need to do. Or maybe there's 3 groups of people that are working at the same time on that particular project. And we can see progress across the board for all 3 groups.
Right. And that's a good point, because we have to orchestrate different tasks across many different groups of folks, many different teams. So, as Eric mentioned, we have a team for store planning, and we have the manufacturing group, and we have the folks that are trying to manage our inventories in our warehouse. And, if we're going to discontinue a fabric, we don't want to leave the factory with 1,000 yards of fabric sitting down there. So there's a whole sell down cycle and a whole process we go through to navigate those changes and to, work out what are the right timelines. So they go through, whole jobs of looking at rate of sale and basing the right target timing for that. So it impacts a lot of people, and our ability to orchestrate those changes across those different departments and different teams, I think is a huge win for us to be able to communicate better, to navigate that better, and to just make that more visible through the dashboards of making that just more visible, more, more available, the information more available, more openly available to folks. We don't want to put that piece in new photography if we know it's going away.
If it's going away, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
This is targeted to be replaced, or we're going to change some options and refine it. Don't build new photography around it, right? So just for teams to be able to communicate better, I think is going to be a huge win.
Yeah. And I think with the way the tool is built now, if you bring up the idea of fabrics, right, those are going to come in and out over time, and new fabrics get added to the line, they get removed from the line. You have the ability to introduce new fabrics and assign those fabrics to products without having to go into every single SKU and make change and say, yes, this fabric should be here, or no, this fabric should not be here, based upon the way we kind of built the data in a relational model. So it's more related to the grade of the fabric, and then the fabric itself could be web available, not web available, open market available, and you have the flexibility there to determine what you're doing with the fabric. And we know that fabrics are tied to a grade, and we know that the graded products are tied to a specific grade. So it makes it a lot easier to manage it. So if I add new fabric at a specific grade level, all products could potentially have that new fabric added to them and have that available from a customization standpoint.
Right. So we have tables that manage all that today and navigate it today. What is new for us is all of the metadata and potential for attributes on those options that will make that data management much easier going forward, or that's what we're envisioning as we're building. We're excited about what we've built so far, but the ability to attribute even at an option level is very exciting to us. And one of the most obvious ones that has been, on the forefront is this option web enabled, and what's our default choice for this value, whatever the option may be, and being able to just attribute so that we can have better tools for customer education, or better tools for filtering in different channels to say, is this available, is it not available? If we want to attach imagery to those options to help the selling process be better, to help the customer understand the choice they're making. So if we give the customer 2 choices of arm types on a sofa, you need to make it visible to the customer to understand the arm type choices. And so being able to offer images associated with options, just that whole new opportunity to have attribution that goes all the way to an option level on product is also another big win.
And I think along that lines too, you guys have done a really good job within JDE, your ERP system, of managing constraints and, just common sense sort of things, where a certain fabric just is not going to look good on that particular couch, or motion piece of upholstery, and that fabric won't work. So let's talk a little bit about how that was kind of integrated, and what you're thinking for future thoughts around constraints, just for types, and then even for location too. Like for web, there might be specific rules that you have in place that don't apply to, say, in store, or there might be certain rules for performance fabrics that are different, that you can set up.
Yeah, so we have a lot of attribution on our fabrics as well. As Eric mentioned, fabrics, we do have performance fabrics, and we do have motion furniture, which is recliners, that type of thing, that have mechanisms and they move. So the standards for fabric that can be on motion fabric are different than the standards for stationary fabric, because they have to be more durable and able to handle the motion, the movement. And so we have a lot of attribution on our fabrics of patterns and repeats and color families and all kinds of things, textures, and so the ability to attribute our fabric, our core configuration and all choices are in our ERP system, and it handles that well. But when it comes to enrichment of data, to be able to take that to a customer and to be able to sell that story to a customer and to help them have enough information to make educated choices, we really have to have a lot more enriched data on that product and each of those option choices, even down to, a fabric has its whole list of attribution that needs to be there to help a customer through that navigation process, through that selection process. Is it pet friendly? All of these things that we carry attribution on. Is this an outdoor fabric? Can we put it on our outdoor furniture? There is a lot of attribution that we put on our fabric in order to be able to help the stores and the customers navigate through and make their choices. All the way to lamps and lighting, and are they UL listed? We have a lot of certification information that we want to share. There's a lot of information that customers want to know about, is this going to fit in my home? So we have all kinds of dimensions. Is my TV going to fit inside of this, or whatever other electrical equipment they have? We get so many questions about information around our product that we needed to be able to build out a lot more of, is this rated for outdoor? Could we carry this piece outdoor? There's all kinds of just certifications, and for outdoor versus indoor, UL listed. Is this, rated for wet environment or a damp environment versus a dry environment? And so we have to provide a lot of that information, and this gives us an easy ability to do that and to produce it and share it either online or through catalogs or other tools. So
yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about how beneficial this digital transformation project is to Bassett Furniture as a company, your internal processes, your external processes. But that exactly touches on that ability to impact that customer experience, their expectations, their needs. That enrichment that you're able to do on your products now leads to that, right?
Yes, and the flexibility of adding new attributes as needed. So if we're introducing new products, or if there are new regulations around products that we're introducing, and we have to be able to share information with the customers, the ability to add attribution in a pretty flexible and fast way to improve that speed to market and improve that information out. And plus our customer service team, what a tool for our customer service team to be able to field questions that come in from the customers that maybe we hadn't thought of, but they're forever asking, what's the clearance under the piece, from the bottom of your furniture to the floor, or diagonally. Who would have thought? But we have to give dimensions diagonally, corner to corner, because they're trying to figure out, am I going to be able to get it through my door? Or I have a stairwell for delivery of, am I going to be able to navigate to get this up my stairwell to get this into my apartment? So there are lots of questions that come up, that the ability to, very quickly, it's very easy to add a new attribute in InterWorks. So the excitement of being able to have tools that are very flexible in our ability to add attribution and then add them to whatever export syndication that we need to add them to, as we're sharing that to other software or other customers, is also another huge win for us.
That's great. I am so glad that us here at Amplify have been able to be part of this journey with you, and that it's making such an impact internally with all the people that you do business with, your vendors, and for your customers. That right there is exactly what we try to do as a company, to impact the business need and the business journey, and to make it a positive experience. Yeah. So I think that's going to wrap up our webinar for today. Thank you everyone for joining us for Make Yourself at Home. We've been talking about Bassett Furniture and how they're undergoing digital transformation to take the showroom to their consumers in the most scalable and flexible way possible, utilizing InterWorks from Precisely and Amplify supporting them the whole way through. So thank you for joining us. Rhonda, Eric, thank you so much for bringing your expertise to the table. It has been a great discussion.